Stop pretending. Stop bending over backward to please everyone while your worth disappears. You've been taught to be the good girl, to smile, to agree, to sacrifice your voice for acceptance. But let me shock you that sweetness is why they don't respect you. Every nod, every forced eyes, every compromise they see is a signal that your life is negotiable. Today, I'm going to show you why being nice isn't strength, why people pleasing destroys your authority, and how you can break free, reclaim your voice, and demand the respect that has always been your right. You see, most people have been taught that being good is the ultimate way to live. Be kind, be polite, never say no, always help, always smile, always agree. And while that may sound noble on the surface, there is a hidden trap most women fall into, often without realizing it. Being the good girl is not what people think it is. It is not automatically a sign of strength, maturity, or character. In fact, it is often the reason they don't respect you. You can be the sweetest, most accommodating person in the room. Yet if you constantly put others before yourself, people will begin to take you for granted. Respect is not given to those who bend to everyone's will. Respect is given to those who stand firm in their worth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. The moment you are constantly saying yes to everyone, the moment you are bending over backward to avoid conflict, you are signaling to people that your own needs, your own values, and your own feelings are negotiable. And that is dangerous because human beings, consciously or unconsciously, treat the negotiable with less reverence. The good girl syndrome is not about genuine kindness. It is about seeking approval. It is about the internal voice that says, if I do what they want, they will like me. If I keep everyone happy, I will be loved. And at first, it may feel rewarding. People smile, they compliment, they even rely on you. But over time, this pattern creates a perception. They expect your compliance as a default. Your generosity is no longer seen as a virtue. It becomes an expectation. They start to demand more, knowing you are unlikely to refuse. And every time you give in, every time you suppress your own voice to maintain their comfort, you reinforce the very pattern that keeps respect out of reach. Respect cannot coexist with self-neglect. Another thing about being the good girl is that it often masks fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing others. And when you act out of fear rather than conviction, people sense it. They feel that your kindness is not authentic, but transactional, based on what you hope to gain rather than who you truly are. Authenticity, my friend, is magnetic. Authenticity commands respect. But approval seeking always diminishes your presence, your energy, your authority. No matter how sweet you are, if you have no backbone, if you allow yourself to be pushed around in the name of being good, people will never truly respect you. Breaking free from the good girl syndrome does not mean abandoning kindness or compassion. It does not mean becoming harsh or cruel. It means recalibrating your life so that your self-worth is not dependent on others' opinions. It means learning to say no without guilt, to enforce boundaries without fear, and to express yourself honestly, even if it makes others uncomfortable. The good girl says yes because she fears loss. The respected woman says yes because it aligns with her purpose. And that is the difference. People will respect the latter because she has refused to make her life negotiable, because she has stopped bending to please and started standing to command. Ultimately, the good girl syndrome is a silent thief. It steals your authority, your voice, and your influence. It keeps you hidden behind a mask of compliance while others walk over you, thinking your consent is permanent. If you want respect, if you want people to take you seriously, you must stop living for approval. You must stop bending yourself into shapes that fit everyone else's expectations. True respect is birthed when you honor yourself first, and only then can others honor you. Being good is not the problem. It is being submissive to everyone's whims that strips you of respect. And the sooner you recognize this, the sooner you step into your power. Boundaries are not just lines on a page. They are the invisible fences that protect your dignity, your peace, and your identity. Without them, you become a playground for people's demands, opinions, and manipulations. Many women struggle with boundaries because they have been conditioned to believe that saying no, asserting themselves, or protecting their time and energy is selfish. They think that kindness must be unconditional, that love must come without limits, and that respect is earned by submission rather than self-awareness. But let me tell you this, respect begins with boundaries. If you do not define what is acceptable in your life, the world will define it for you, and more often than not, the world will push you further than you should go. Every moment you allow someone to cross your line, every time you tolerate disrespect, you are teaching them that you do not value yourself, and that is a dangerous lesson for anyone to learn. Boundaries are not walls, they are signals. They communicate to others, often silently, that your time is precious, your feelings are valid, and your dignity is non-negotiable. When you fail to enforce them, people will naturally test them. It's human nature. When you do not draw clear limits, people will push until they see a reaction. And the problem is, without boundaries, the reaction often comes too late after damage has been done. You may feel drained, used, or resentful, and wonder why people do not treat you with the respect you deserve. The answer is simple. They only respect what you respect in yourself. If you have no boundaries, you communicate that your peace, your energy, and your self-worth are optional, and people operate accordingly. Establishing boundaries requires awareness and courage. You must first identify where you are being compromised, what behaviors you cannot tolerate, and what your non-negotiables are. This can be uncomfortable because it may upset people who are used to taking advantage of your pliability. Some may resist, push back, or even withdraw, and that is exactly why boundaries are powerful. They separate the people who truly value from those who only want convenience. Respect is not given freely to the pliable, it is given to the firm, to those who have the courage to define what is right for them and insist on it. Boundaries are not about controlling others, they are about controlling your life. They ensure that you remain whole and unbroken, even when others attempt to infringe upon your space, time, or emotional energy. Many women mistakenly believe that boundaries make them rigid or unloving. Nothing could be further from the truth. Boundaries are acts of love, love for yourself first, which then allows you to love others without resentment or depletion. They teach people how to treat you, and in that teaching lies respect. When you clearly communicate your limits, you reduce misunderstandings, eliminate unnecessary conflicts, and prevent exploitation. People may not like your boundaries at first, but over time, they will learn that you are serious about your life, your time, and your dignity, and that will command respect like nothing else. The most powerful thing about boundaries is that they reclaim your agency. They say to the world, I am not available for everything. I am not defined by your expectations. I have a life, a purpose, and a value that cannot be negotiated. Without boundaries, you drift through life subject to the whims of others, exhausted and frustrated that people do not respect you. With boundaries, you create a life that honors you, attracts the right people, and repels those who seek to manipulate or diminish you. The moment you enforce them consistently, the energy in your interactions shifts. People begin to take you seriously. They listen, they wait. They treat you differently because now you respect yourself, and respect is contagious. In the end, boundaries are not just rules, they are statements of identity. They define who you are, what you will tolerate, and how others can engage with you. They are the first step toward a life of dignity, self-respect, and influence. Without them, you are invisible. With them, you are unshakable. Authenticity is one of the most powerful forces a person can possess, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many women spend their lives shaping themselves to fit into someone else's expectations, adjusting their words, their actions, even their dreams in the hope of gaining approval. They believe that if they are agreeable, compliant, or entertaining enough, people will respect them. But here is the cold truth: respect is never born out of pretense. People can sense when you are living in alignment with your purpose versus when you are living to please them. When your life is a reflection of other people's expectations, it communicates one thing clearly: your worth is determined by their opinion. And when your worth is external, respect becomes conditional, fleeting, and unreliable. No one will ever fully respect someone who cannot respect herself. Genuine authenticity begins with self-knowledge. It begins when you understand who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not compromise on. It means embracing your strengths and weaknesses, your quirks, your ambitions, and even your fears without the need to hide or perform for anyone. People are naturally drawn to authenticity because it is rare. In a world full of masks and facades, someone who is unapologetically themselves becomes magnetic. Their presence commands attention, their voice carries weight, and their life becomes a statement of truth. People respect authenticity not because it pleases them, but because it demonstrates integrity and courage. It is difficult to manipulate or undervalue someone who lives in full alignment with their identity. And that is why authenticity breeds respect. The problem with living for approval is that it enslaves you. Approval seekers constantly monitor the reactions of others, adjusting their behavior to avoid criticism, rejection, or disappointment. They are exhausted, anxious, and never fully present because their attention is always outward, never inward. Their decisions are dictated by fear rather than conviction, and over time, this erodes confidence and self-worth. Worse, it teaches people that your value is negotiable, and human beings will often exploit that. When you live for approval, your boundaries are weak, your voice is soft, and your power is invisible. People smile, nod, and thank you, but they do not respect you. They only respect what you respect in yourself, and if you cannot honor your own truth, no one else will. Authenticity also allows for vulnerability without compromise. You do not have to hide your struggles, admit your mistakes, or cover your emotions to appear strong or perfect. Being authentic means living honestly even when it is uncomfortable. And paradoxically, this honesty attracts respect. People feel your genuineness. They sense the courage it takes to refuse pretense, and they naturally respond with admiration. You become unshakable not because you are flawless, but because you are real, intentional, and unwavering in who you are. The energy you radiate when you are authentic is unlike anything else. People can feel it, and it commands respect more than words ever could. The key to authenticity over approval is choice. You must choose daily to honor your values, speak your truth, and act from conviction, even when it might disappoint others or challenge their expectations. This is not easy, and it will not always make you popular. Some people may reject you, misunderstand you, or attempt to manipulate you into conformity. But those who remain in your life, who respect your truth, are the people worth keeping. Their respect is real because it is given freely to someone who does not compromise their identity for external validation. Approval is fleeting, popularity is temporary, but authenticity builds a life that cannot be shaken. Ultimately, living authentically is the cornerstone of respect. If you want people to take you seriously, if you want influence, authority, and dignity, it must begin with being unapologetically yourself. Stop performing for acceptance. Stop twisting yourself into shapes that please everyone else. Start living with integrity, courage, and truth. People will sense it, and respect will follow naturally. You cannot manufacture respect. You can only live in a way that makes it inevitable. Self-worth is one of the most overlooked yet powerful determinants of how people treat you. Many women live as if their value is defined by what others think, say, or allow them to do. They look for validation in compliments, in attention, in approval, and in the fleeting praise of others. The problem is when your sense of worth comes from external sources, you become a reflection of someone else's judgment rather than a reflection of who you truly are. People sense this instinctively. Humans have an uncanny ability to read energy, to feel insecurity, and to pick up on subtle cues of uncertainty. When you undervalue yourself, your energy communicates doubt, hesitation, and submissiveness, even if your words say otherwise. And here is the truth. People do not respect what is uncertain. They do not follow what is wavering, and they do not take seriously what is not anchored in confidence. Self-worth is not about arrogance, superiority, or dismissing others. It is about recognizing that you are inherently valuable, worthy of respect, and deserving of dignity, regardless of external circumstances. The moment you understand your value, everything changes. Your voice changes, your posture changes, your interactions change. People begin to sense that you are no longer negotiable, that your presence carries weight, and that your life is not up for compromise. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop minimizing yourself to make others comfortable. You stop waiting for permission to speak, to act, or to pursue your dreams. And in that space, respect becomes inevitable. People subconsciously measure others by the energy they radiate. If you undervalue yourself, they feel free to undervalue you too. But if you respect yourself, even silently and without words, they begin to mirror that respect in how they treat you. The tragedy of undervaluing yourself is that it often goes unnoticed until it manifests in repeated patterns of mistreatment. You may find yourself always saying yes to things you do not want to do, constantly seeking approval, allowing your boundaries to be crossed, and excusing behavior that diminishes your dignity. You may wonder why people do not take you seriously, why they do not honor your time, why they seem to walk over you. The answer is simple. Respect is never given to someone who does not believe in their own value. It cannot be demanded. It cannot be borrowed. It can only be reflected through the energy of self-worth. Once you embrace your intrinsic value, the dynamics of every relationship shift. People either rise to meet your standard or they fade away. Building self-worth requires deliberate choices. It begins with self-recognition, acknowledging your strengths, your potential, and your purpose without waiting for someone else to validate them. It requires self-care, protecting your emotional, physical, and mental space, refusing to allow others to drain or diminish you. It involves self-respect, making decisions that honor your integrity, even when it costs you approval or comfort. And most importantly, it requires the courage to stop measuring yourself against others, to stop seeking validation externally, and to start believing that your life, your voice, and your presence are inherently significant. The energy of self-worth cannot be faked. It must be cultivated from within. When you live in alignment with your value, you carry a quiet authority that demands attention. People feel it without you having to say a word. They instinctively treat you differently because they sense that your life is not negotiable, that your energy is sacred, and that your dignity is non-negotiable. Self-worth is the foundation for every other principle. We have discussed boundaries, authenticity, assertiveness, and respect. Without it, all else is weak, temporary, and easily exploited. Ultimately, when you undervalue yourself, the world undervalues you. But when you honor your worth, when you anchor yourself in the truth of your value, respect follows naturally. It does not need to be asked for. It cannot be ignored. You become unshakable, non-negotiable, and impossible to overlook. Self-worth is the invisible force that changes everything. Assertiveness is one of the most misunderstood qualities in women. Many think being assertive means being aggressive, harsh, or unkind. Others believe that standing your ground will make people dislike you, or that saying no is selfish. But nothing could be further from the truth. Assertiveness is not about hurting people. It is about honoring yourself, protecting your boundaries, and communicating your worth clearly. Is a direct expression of self-respect. And the truth is, without assertiveness, respect from others is almost impossible. People do not respect those who allow themselves to be pushed around, who never voice their opinions, or who constantly yield to everyone else's desires. The moment you begin to assert yourself, you send a powerful message. I am not negotiable. My time, energy, and values matter. And when that energy is present, people cannot ignore it. Many women struggle with assertiveness because they have been conditioned to believe that being agreeable is the path to love, acceptance, and success. They fear confrontation, disapproval, or rejection. And so they compromise constantly. They say yes when they mean no. They stay silent when they should speak. And they tolerate behavior that diminishes them in order to avoid tension. But this pattern only teaches people one thing, that your life, your voice, and your desires are optional. Assertiveness, on the other hand, flips the script. It makes it clear that you are fully responsible for yourself and that others must engage with you on your terms if they want to engage at all. Respect begins the moment people realize you will not bend to manipulation, guilt, or coercion. Saying no is one of the simplest yet most powerful expressions of assertiveness. It does not require explanation, justification, or apology. Every time you say no to what does not serve you, you reinforce your authority over your life. You show others that you are aware of your priorities, your boundaries, and your value. And it is through this consistent practice that people start to take you seriously. Assertiveness also allows you to express your opinions honestly without fear of disapproval. When you speak with confidence, when you voice your thoughts, even in the face of disagreement, you command attention. People may not always like what you say, but they will respect the fact that you said it with conviction, clarity, and courage. Assertiveness is not just about words, it is about energy, posture, and consistency. It is the way you carry yourself, the tone of your voice, and the decisions you make consistently over time. Someone who is assertive does not have to be loud to be heard. They do not have to demand respect. They simply live in a way that communicates it naturally. People feel the energy of assertiveness, and it shifts the dynamics of every interaction. Manipulators, exploiters, and opportunists instinctively recognize it and either adjust their behavior or remove themselves from your space. The greatest power of assertiveness is that it aligns with purpose. When you stand your ground, you are not simply resisting people. You are protecting your destiny, your vision, and your identity. Every time you enforce your boundaries, express your truth, or refuse to compromise your principles, you are building a life that commands respect effortlessly. Assertiveness is a daily practice. It requires courage, repetition, and awareness, because the world will often resist it, test it, or challenge it. But the payoff is undeniable. People begin to treat you differently. Your relationships become healthier and your presence becomes magnetic. Ultimately, assertiveness is the bridge between self-worth and respect. Without it, all your knowledge, kindness, and intentions can be overlooked. With it, every interaction communicates your value without you having to explain yourself. Saying no, standing your ground, and speaking your truth are not acts of aggression. They are acts of self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of commanding respect in every area of life. When you embrace assertiveness, people stop walking over you and they start recognizing the authority, strength, and dignity that was inside you all along. Fear of conflict is one of the most subtle but dangerous traps that many women fall into. From a young age, we are taught that being nice, agreeable, and easy to get along with is a virtue. We are encouraged to avoid arguments, to swallow our discomfort, and to prioritize harmony over truth. While this may sound harmless or even noble, the reality is that avoiding conflict at all costs often becomes a silent invitation for disrespect. When you constantly evade disagreement, compromise your values to keep peace, or suppress your feelings to avoid tension, people begin to see you as pliable, submissive, and easy to manipulate. They start to believe that your voice does not matter and that your boundaries are negotiable. And before you know it, the very niceness you thought would protect you has created an environment where you are taken for granted, overlooked, or even exploited. Avoiding conflict is often rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being disliked, fear of confrontation, and fear of losing relationships drives many to remain silent when they should speak, to nod when they should refuse, and to smile when they are hurt. This fear is powerful because it convinces you that conflict is inherently bad, when in reality, conflict is simply the natural friction that occurs when people's boundaries, values, or opinions differ. Conflict is not disrespect, it is a test of respect. When handled correctly, conflict clarifies boundaries, strengthens relationships, and commands respect. But when avoided out of fear, it becomes a gateway to manipulation. People sense hesitation, doubt, and avoidance, and they exploit it. They push limits, make unreasonable demands, and take liberties, all while believing that you will not stand up for yourself. The danger of avoiding conflict is that it erodes your self-respect without you even noticing. You may believe that you are keeping the peace, being good, or protecting relationships, but in reality, you are allowing your energy, your voice, and your identity to be diminished. Over time, this creates resentment, frustration, and a sense of invisibility. People do not respect what they can quietly control or manipulate. They do not value what they do not see as firm or non-negotiable. If you want to command respect, you must confront conflict, not run from it. You must learn to say what is true, enforce your boundaries, and communicate your discomfort without fear of reprisal. Avoiding conflict also prevents growth. Conflict is often uncomfortable, yes, but it reveals weaknesses, clarifies priorities, and strengthens character. It is in moments of disagreement that you learn the value of your voice, the strength of your boundaries, and the depth of your convictions. When you avoid it, you deny yourself the opportunity to grow into the kind of person who is unshakable, respected, and confident. People may continue to see you as nice on the surface, but underneath, your influence diminishes, your presence loses weight, and your authority weakens. True respect comes from courage, not compliance. The solution is not to become combative, harsh, or reactive. The solution is to shift your mindset around conflict. Understand that conflict is not a threat to your relationships or your peace. It is a mechanism through which respect is earned. Approach conflict with calmness, clarity, and courage. Speak your truth without apology. Assert your boundaries without aggression. And refuse to allow discomfort to dictate your decisions. The more consistently you face conflict with integrity, the more people will adjust their behavior, acknowledge your value, and treat you with respect. Ultimately, fear of conflict keeps you small. It convinces you that submission is safety and compliance is virtue. But the truth is that avoiding necessary conflict is a silent signal that your boundaries, needs, and worth are negotiable. People respect what is firm, consistent, and unapologetic. They respect the courage to stand, to speak, and to protect one's space. The moment you stop fearing conflict and start confronting it with wisdom, respect shifts in your favor. You become someone whose life, energy, and voice are not up for debate. You stop being manipulated, overlooked, or undervalued, and you start walking in authority over your own life. Energy and presence are invisible forces that communicate who you are long before you speak a word. They are not about beauty, clothes, or material status. They are about the essence of your being, the way you occupy space, and the vibration you send out to the world. Many women underestimate the power of energy, believing that respect is earned solely through words, actions, or achievements. The truth is, people respond first to energy. They feel it in your posture, your gaze, your walk, and the way you carry yourself in a room. Confidence, strength, and self-assuredness radiate through energy, and it can command attention and respect more powerfully than any argument, explanation, or demonstration of ability. If you want people to take you seriously, you must understand that presence is not superficial. It is a reflection of your inner state. Energy begins within. It is the outward reflection of how you value yourself. Someone who doubts herself, fears judgment, or seeks constant approval projects uncertainty, hesitation, and pliability. Even if she speaks boldly, her energy betrays insecurity. Others pick up on it subconsciously and often respond accordingly with disregard, manipulation, or diminished respect. On the other hand, someone who has cultivated self-worth, authenticity, and boundaries emits energy that is firm, grounded, and magnetic. Her presence communicates without saying a word that she is not to be taken lightly, that her time, space, and energy are valuable, and that she deserves consideration and respect. People do not always know why they listen to her or defer to her, but they cannot ignore her. Energy is felt long before it is understood. Presence is also about how you physically and emotionally inhabit your space. It is the posture you hold, the steadiness of your gaze, the way you move, and even the silence you command. A woman who walks into a room with self-awareness and poise immediately changes the dynamics of that room. Conversations shift, attention focuses. People sense authority even without titles or verbal assertions. Presence is a combination of confidence, composure, and the unspoken assertion of worth. It is the energy that says, I am here, I belong, and my life matters. And when carried consistently, it creates a natural force field that demands respect. Many women rely too heavily on words or external validation to establish themselves. They believe that if they explain enough, perform enough, or please enough, respect will follow. But words are temporary, and people forget explanations and performances. Energy, however, is remembered. It lingers. People cannot help but respond to it. A confident, Grounded presence changes the way people interact with you, shifts perceptions, and elevates your influence. It communicates that you are not available for exploitation or manipulation, and that your life, choices, and boundaries are non-negotiable. Cultivating strong energy and presence requires intentionality. It begins with self-awareness, understanding how your emotions, thoughts, and posture affect your interactions. It requires self-discipline to ensure that your energy remains consistent even in challenging situations. It demands self-respect, because only when you honor yourself internally can your presence command respect externally. Finally, it requires practice. Every interaction, every room you enter, and every decision you make contributes to the energy you radiate. Over time, this energy becomes your signature. It precedes your words, influences perceptions, and creates a magnetic authority that cannot be ignored. Ultimately, energy and presence are the silent language of influence. People respond to it instinctively, often before understanding it intellectually. They sense when someone carries themselves with purpose, strength, and confidence, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. No matter what you say, how educated you are, or how kind you are, if your energy is weak, respect will be limited. But if your energy is grounded, confident, and aligned with your value, people will listen, pay attention, and treat you differently. Presence is not just an appearance. It is a declaration of your worth, a reflection of your inner strength, and a tool through which respect flows naturally. Transformation is not just a change in behavior. It is a profound shift in identity. Many women spend their lives trying to please everyone around them, smiling when they are hurt, agreeing when they are uncomfortable, giving when they are drained, and sacrificing their own needs to maintain approval. This pattern may earn temporary affection or attention, but it rarely earns respect. People pleasing is rooted in fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, and fear of being disliked. And it communicates to the world that your worth is contingent upon others' validation. Transformation begins the moment you recognize that living for others' approval is a life of compromise, exhaustion, and invisibility, and that true power and influence are birthed when you choose self-respect over constant concession. The moment you decide to stop bending for everyone else, you reclaim authority over your own life, and that authority radiates in every interaction, creating magnetic influence and genuine respect. People who have transformed from approval seekers into self-respecting individuals emit an energy that is impossible to ignore. They no longer wait for permission to express themselves, speak their minds, or enforce their boundaries. Their no carries weight, and their yes is deliberate and intentional. This is the essence of magnetic authority. It is not loud, forceful, or aggressive. It is quiet, confident, and unshakable. People sense it instinctively and respond with attention, deference, and respect. Transformation is not about becoming unkind or harsh. It is about aligning your external behavior with your internal values and refusing to let anyone diminish your dignity. The people who once took advantage of your pliability suddenly encounter resistance they cannot ignore, and that resistance reshapes how they interact with you. Transformation also involves redefining the way you relate to relationships. The people pleaser lives in a reactive state, constantly adjusting her behavior to satisfy others, fearing that displeasure will lead to rejection or abandonment. In contrast, the self-respecting individual approaches relationships from a position of equilibrium. She gives when she chooses, she invests when it aligns with her values, and she engages with people who honor her boundaries and reciprocate her respect. This shift is subtle but profound. It automatically filters out toxic dynamics, reduces manipulation, and increases the quality of the connections in her life. By valuing herself, she teaches others how to value her. And in that teaching, she commands authority without demanding it. Transformation is not instantaneous. It is a process that requires courage, consistency, and self-awareness. It begins with recognizing patterns of over-accommodation, people-pleasing, and compromise. It continues with cultivating self-worth, assertiveness, boundaries, and authenticity. Each small choice to honor yourself over pleasing others reinforces a new identity and builds confidence. Over time, this process rewires the way people perceive you. They begin to take you seriously, Listen to your voice and respect your decisions. Transformation is about becoming a woman whose life is not dictated by external approval, but is anchored in internal authority, self-respect, and purpose. The most powerful outcome of this transformation is the magnetic effect it has on others. People are naturally drawn to those who are grounded in themselves, who carry themselves with integrity, and whose presence commands attention without force. Relationships shift from imbalance and dependency to mutual respect, admiration, and influence. Your voice is heard, your boundaries are honored, and your value is recognized consistently. The transformation from a people pleaser to a self-respecting individual is not just about changing habits. It is about reclaiming your authority, your voice, and your destiny. It is the culmination of self-awareness, courage, and deliberate living, and it creates a life where respect is automatic, influence is natural, and authority is magnetic. Ultimately, transformation is the bridge between invisibility and influence. When you stop living for others' approval and start living in alignment with your values, people notice. They respect you, they listen to you, and they are naturally drawn to your energy. Transformation is not just personal growth. It is the creation of magnetic authority that reshapes how the world interacts with you and how you command your place in every relationship. No, listen carefully. Respect is not given to the good girl who sacrifices herself for everyone else. Respect is earned by the woman who values herself, sets her boundaries, speaks her truth, and refuses to be anyone's doormat. The journey from people pleaser to self-respecting authority begins today with the decisions you make and the energy you carry. Stand firm, say no when necessary, and honor your worth in every interaction. Your life is not negotiable. Your voice matters and your presence commands attention. Go out now and live with courage, authenticity, and unshakable authority.